Hi, I'm Tony Shankle. I'm the CEO of Strategic Edge, and today we're going to take a trip to the gun range. You'll notice when you turn into the gun range, it's a gated facility, it's secure. As a member, you should have been issued a code card. You'll enter that code, always hit the pound sign first, and then your code. Then the gate will open for you, and you can go on in and park. Now, if you're only going to be in the clubhouse for a few minutes, then you can park out front, directly in front of the clubhouse. If you're going to be here a little longer, then please park in the parking lot in front of the clubhouse so that you don't take up that space. So when you get to the clubhouse and out of your car, make sure the first thing you do is put your ID on. If you're a new member, you probably just read within the rules that it's required that you have your ID on at all times, and it has to be in a visible location. So please don't put it underneath your shirt where we can't see it. When we come by to check the range, it makes it more difficult for us and less safe for you and more aggravating for you. So always put it in a visible location. If you don't have a lanyard or a clip, there's a basket on the back counter inside that has both, and you're welcome to get one. You're going to use your code from your code card. It does not require a pound sign. It's the same code that gets you in the gate. It will get you in this door. Again, just do not use the pound sign if it's locked. But before you try your code, give the handle a pull and see if it opens, because the clubhouse is usually unlocked. You can say hi to Presley, who's usually at the range. He's kind of the range mascot. So if you're a member, you're not required to come into the clubhouse. You could just drive straight to the area where you're going to shoot and go ahead and get started. But if you have a guest, you are required to come in the clubhouse and sign that guest in. Anybody that comes on the property that's not a member has to sign a guest waiver, complete it. You can do that digitally on this tablet. You can do it by paper form. If you do that with paper, make sure you fold it in half and you put it in this box down here. We don't want to leave people's information out for everyone to see. So after you complete that waiver, you will make their payment for their guest fee here. You pull the plunger out of this cash box and just fold up your money and put it in there. You might want to bring a few dollars when you come to the range. Remember to bring some cash. We do take checks, but we do not have a way for you to pay us digitally here at the gun range. Other things we have for sale here, behind the counter, you'll notice there's t-shirts, there's hats, there's log books, stickers, things like that. It's all self-serve. The prices are right there on the price board, and you just check yourself out. You can get chamber flags. They're required on the range. Don't forget to get out on the range and not have a chamber flag for your rifle. Other things you should know about in the clubhouse is the first aid station. We're pretty serious about our medical training and taking care of our members and make sure they're educated. So one of the perks of your membership is we provide and we pay for the medical training classes out here. If you look on the calendar, you'll find them from time to time. There's a Trauma 1, a Trauma 2, a Stop the Bleed, sometimes even some other classes. And there's no cost to a member to attend those classes. You do have to sign up, and we would encourage you to do so. It's not just about medical treatment for range issues. It's also things that can happen when you're on the road driving, or a loved one that gets ill or is in trouble at home, and you might just be able to save somebody's life one day. We want to encourage you to take those classes. You'll see out on the range later in this video, you're going to see that we have first aid and gunshot wound kits at each area you can be shooting. And inside the clubhouse, we have the same thing, but a little bit of extra. So we've got a gunshot blowout kit you can tear off the wall and take with you. There's some extra tourniquets. You'll notice a full first aid station, and there's an AED defibrillator, automatic defibrillator here, and it is self-guided. You take it out and start it, and it will talk you through that process if you need to use it. We encourage all members to bring their own staple gun. Most shooters do that. They buy themselves one, put it in their range shooting bag, so you always got it with you. We do provide them out here. We have some to borrow in case you forget yours or you're out of staples, and we don't mind doing that, but the problem is people leave them out on the range, and they accidentally take them home, or they leave them in the golf cart and they're all empty. And so if you do borrow a staple gun, please bring it back inside. Anything that you borrow out of here that you didn't purchase needs to be taken care of and needs to be brought back and put back where you found it in good condition. We also provide spray paints for you to paint the steel targets downrange. Please don't abuse it. It's expensive. It's a high output can. So you want to, not overspray the target if you can help it. And then don't leave the paint out on the range somewhere. And you get finished, bring it back in here and put it back on the shelf. You can borrow our sleds. You can borrow sandbags, spotting scopes, all that. Again, as long as you take good care of it and bring it back in and put it on the shelf. There's also some chronographs in here that you can also take out and use. The target stand has all the targets you can purchase here. There is an example of each target on the wall, and the price for that target is written on there, so you'll just check yourself out, put your money in the cash box once again. So you'll see a small classroom area. If you're interested in any of our courses, they're all listed online. You email us to sign up, and if you're wondering what the dates are, you look at our website calendar, and it'll have the dates for all those courses. And again, you'll just email us to sign up, and we'll reply back to you. In this area, you can get water, you can get some snacks. Everything here is $1. It's just $1. It's an easy system. And you self-serve and you pay again at the cash box, and you have a restroom that you can use inside. Before we go on our range tours, I want you to pay a particular close attention to this sign. The first part of it is that you, by entering the premise, you acknowledge that you have read, understood, and will follow the range rules. And we just want to make sure you know that at Strategic Edge, we take that very, very seriously. We don't mind letting a member go if they have trouble abiding by the rules out here. We are not going to tolerate someone creating an unsafe condition for other shooters. And so we try to do that as gracefully as we can, but we strictly enforce it. So we need to know that, and you need to make sure that you've read those rules and you've read them enough times to become familiar with them and to be able to follow them when you come on site. The next part of it, of course, is part of those rules. You'll see that eye and ear protection are required on the range at all times, and that doesn't matter where you are, whether it's rifle range, pistol range, trap range, it doesn't matter. You are required to have proper eye and ear protection on the range at all times. And lastly, make sure that alcohol, drugs, any of that, none of that is allowed on the range, or anybody that's been on any of those substances cannot be on the range property whatsoever. We'll actually, if you do that, we actually call law enforcement to deal with you at that point. So when you first come in the gate, you'll notice to your left the archery range. This is your shooting position to make sure it keeps you away from the gate, far enough away from the gate so you don't get any surprises. You can hang your bow over here on this rack. We got various 3D targets at different distances, some bag targets. The big rule here is don't shoot our targets with broadheads. Only field tip arrows. To the right side of the clubhouse, you'll notice a knife and axe throwing area, so you can come out here and practice. So now we're going to move on to the pistol bays. There are 8 total pistol bays here at Strategic Edge. We're in Bay 1 currently, which is a 25-yard bay. Bay 2 is also 25 yards. Bay 3 we call the carbine bay, but it's pistol and carbine, and it is a 50-yard bay. Then you go down the access road into the rear, and you'll notice 5 more pistol bays. Bay 4, 5, 6, and 7 are short 15-yard bays, and then Bay 8 is our 360 bay. Now, when we say 360, you can only shoot 360 degrees in there when you're with an instructor, a Strategic Edge instructor, because we're concerned about where you set the targets up, and an instructor needs to be present to make sure that that remains safe. But what you can do when you're on your own is you can shoot 180 degrees, which is also a big advantage. It is a paper target only bay. You cannot put up steel targets or take steel back there. Well, we don't really want you manipulating our targets that are back there as much as we want you to be able to build wall sections out of barrels and different things that are back there to use for obstacles, and you can get some good practice in. So some important things to know about each and every one of these bays in general is all of them except for Bay 8 will have a mix of steel and paper targets in them. You can shoot a pistol on the steel targets, and you can shoot a rifle only on the paper targets. Now, pistol, again, can be shot paper or steel, but the rifle can only be shot on a paper target, as you're not allowed to use a rifle cartridge on steel under 100 yards. So you have to go to the rifle range to do that. Also, we're going to talk a little about moving your guns from your car and where to park. When you pull up to these bays, you don't have to park out front. You can pull your car back to the bay and back up to pretty close to where your first bench will be, you'll notice there's a sign on the side, and the sign designates the firing line, where the firing line begins. Do not park your car past that firing line, but you can park it directly behind it so you don't have to carry your gear as far. When you exit your vehicle, if you have handguns, if they're in a bag, you are allowed to use a bag at the pistol range for either handguns or long guns. You can remove them from your car, you can take them to a bench, and you can take them out of their bag there. Just make sure you don't point that bag. If it's a rifle in there, back up toward the clubhouse. Make sure you've got that chamber flag in that rifle inside that bag, or if it's in your hands and you're unloading it, you need to make sure it's chamber flagged. And the same thing goes with your pistol. If your pistol is not in your gun belt in a holster, then it needs to be action open, it needs to be locked open and magazine removed in your bag to transport it from your car to your bench. Again, if you've got a holster, which we recommend, highly recommend, you can have it unloaded, no magazine, and you can have it in that holster, and that's a safe way to transport. Let's talk a little bit more about that pistol in a holster. We recommend that when you come out to shoot that you bring a holster. If you don't, then you're probably going to end up breaking the 180 rule. It's hard to walk down range. If I'm shooting and I've got a holster, I can holster it live and I can leave it loaded and I can safely go check my target and walk back to my shooting position. If I'm carrying that gun and I walk down range with it, first of all, I have to unload it and get the magazine out of it, which is inconvenient. And secondly, it's still really easy for you to break that 180. You go down and check your target, and then you turn around to walk back, and you pretty much instantly have broken the 180 right there. So that's a no-no. We highly recommend that you use a holster when you're using pistols on the pistol range. So you'll notice in each pistol bay, you'll see a sign like this one. That represents where the firing line begins. Again, you can park behind that sign, but you can't park on the other side, and you cannot shoot beyond that sign. This is bay 1. It tells you what bay you're in. It also tells you some other important information like no rifle on steel targets. That's a big no-no. You do not want to shoot your rifle on steel under 100 yards, so it's not allowed in the pistol bays. No firing behind this point. You cannot back up, even though there's a little bit of extra room, you cannot back up and fire behind these signs. The other side of this sign has some different information for when you're coming back from downrange. Okay, so when you're walking back from being downrange, this sign reminds you again which bay you're in. It reminds you to pick up your brass, be a good range member, a good steward of your membership, and take down your targets. We don't want to leave paper targets up. They blow off the property. Somebody else has to take them down and clean up after you, and that's not what a professional gun range is all about, and that's not the level or type of member that we're looking for. We want somebody that's going to take care of their own responsibilities and take down their targets and clean up their brass. And then the biggest rule of them all is no muzzle pointing this direction. If you're pointing the muzzle this way, you are automatically breaking the 180, and you may be putting someone in danger out in the clubhouse in the front parking lot. Another sign I want to point out in bay 1, and you'll see this in other bays, is the 10-yard sign. The reason that's here and the reason it's so important for us to show you where 10 yards is you do not need to, it's against the rules and it's dangerous to shoot a pistol on steel under 10 yards. So 10 yards is your minimum distance. So you come out here and you're enjoying yourself shooting all these steel targets, make sure you're back behind the 10-yard line so that you can do it safely. So these are typical targets you'll encounter in the pistol bays. You may see some different types of steel, but you'll find steel targets like this silhouette in each bay. You'll find paper stands like this in each bay, but this 4x4 foot target is special to bay 1 only. That target is the only target you can use to sight in a shotgun, because shotguns will cut the other target stands in half, and we don't want you using them on the we call them 2x3s, and this is called a 4x4. So the 4x4 is where you could come out with a big piece of paper, pattern that shotgun, do it without damaging the target stands. It's also another good example of while most people at the range do a good job of cleaning up and following the rules, this is a good example about what you shouldn't leave behind. We don't allow stick-on targets at the range, so that stick-on target should have never been on there, and you'll see how people have put paper and not taken it down, and it's just messy, and it blows off, and it creates a problem for everyone else that they have to deal with. So now we're going to take a ride, and we're going to look at the other 7 pistol bays. And as we said earlier, bay 2 is another 25-yard pistol bay like bay 1. You'll see some smaller silhouettes, some larger ones, and some paper targets. At Strategic Edge, it is permissible to shoot on the move and draw from a holster. You just cannot, you have to watch the 180, and you need to read those range rules closely to make sure you're doing it within the rules and within the guidelines. This is bay 3. It's our carbine bay. You'll see there's a police department in here today. We get a lot of groups that use this bay. It's a little bit larger. It comes back to 50 yards, and you can shoot pistol or carbine, either one in there. And by the way, while we're driving the access road to the back 5 pistol bays, it's probably a good time to talk about some of the other rules, which are shooting hours. On the rifle range, shooting hours are full sunrise to full sunset. But on the pistol range, the hours are full sunrise until 8:30 p.m. So during the fall and winter months and the spring, you can actually get in some night practice and some night shooting on the pistol range, which is really good if you're looking to be a defensive pistol shooter. Then it's really good for you to be able to practice some in low light conditions. Use that flashlight, and you're certainly welcome to run NVGs and night vision and thermal units, so you can do that stuff out here. If it gets too late for you to shoot, which is 8:30 at night in the pistol bay, you still can be on site to use your night vision and to test your equipment. You just can't shoot the firearm after that time. So really watch out for the range shooting hours. We have neighbors we have to be respectful of. Once again, we came down the access road to the back. You'll see a sign on the side of the building in front of us that no vehicles beyond this point. That's pretty plain and simple. You can park on the side of this road. Don't block the road off, but it's wide enough for you to park on the side. And then you exit your vehicle, and you'd pick up your gear and walk back to these other pistol bays. You should be seeing bay 4 coming into view, and you can see there's a plate rack and a small silhouette. But these pistol bays are shorter. Again, they're 4, 5, 6, and 7 are 15 yarders. They're really good for 1 or 2 people to do some personal practice at those distances or shorter. Don't shoot the steel closer than 10 yards, but there's certainly a lot of barricades and barrels, and there's a lot of stuff to do. You'll see a Texas Star, some more plate racks, and there's abundance of targets back here to shoot at. When we come to bay 8, you'll notice that there are 2 signs. And that's our 360 bay. When you go in to use this bay, those signs have to be rotated to say, stop here, bay 8 is in use. And you'll see that's the condition they're in now, and that tells us that there's someone in there shooting and that we should not proceed in there any further because they can shoot up to 180 degrees and it might not be safe for us to enter. If those signs are rotated to the other side, they'll be green for go. Of course, they're red for stop on this side. The other side will say that bay 8 is clear and empty when you rotate it, and it'll be in green. So now we're going to explore the rifle range. Once we leave the left side of bay 1 in the pistol range, then everything this side is considered rifle range. Even when you're at the trap shooting station, you're still considered to be on the rifle range, and it goes by rifle range rules if you're looking at your rules. When you park at the rifle range, you'll see a good example right now that these gentlemen have parked in the correct location. Do not park up against the building, rather park across the parking lot and walk your gear in. When you get out of that vehicle with your rifle, it cannot be cased. You'll notice as this sign says no cased rifles. And we don't allow that because people tend to carry the case and the gun will be pointed at the back of other shooters. We can't see that it's visibly chamber flagged and unloaded when you have it inside of a case. So we have a no case rule here at Strategic Edge. When you exit your vehicle, you'll get your firearm, your rifle, and it needs to be pointed straight up. It needs to be chamber flagged, no magazine or an empty magazine, and you have to carry it in that condition straight to a shooting bench and then lay it down. So that's the proper way to get your rifle to a bench and get it set up, safely pointed down range without pointing at another shooter or causing a potentially hazardous situation. Now, you'll notice there's some other signs here that tell you, identify which building we're at. Of course, we already carry rifle muzzle up. Inside the buildings, you're going to see some additional signs, and they tell you about the automatic range control system, which we're going to go over in detail, and they tell you what to do before the range is cold, and we're going to step inside and look at those things now. Okay, the first thing you need to do at the rifle range is look and see what the range condition is before you ever get a firearm out of your vehicle. You can only touch a firearm and you can only move a firearm out of your vehicle to the bench when the range is hot. So you have to either have a green light system, which means go, green for go, just like a traffic light, or you have to have a yellow light system, which is basically a warning period. The range is still hot during that period, but it's your warning 5-minute countdown type period. You'll notice we control that system here, and the range is in green hot mode right now, and it is counting down from the shot clock from 30 minutes. When it gets down to the 5-minute mark, it will automatically go yellow. How you make the range hot is that both golf carts at both buildings have to be returned, which means there's no shooters downrange. You visibly inspect down to 100 yards to make sure there's no walkers, because no one's allowed to walk past 100 yards. So if there's no walkers, both golf carts are back. The golf cart key will be, the golf cart key is tethered to the lockout tagout key on the safety system, and you'll notice that when I remove that key to show you the golf cart key, I killed the system and made it red. So to make it hot, you basically will insert that key with both golf carts at both stations have to be back, and you insert that key, turn it to the right, and you'll hit the... After a period of 25 minutes, you get down to that 5-minute mark, then the system will automatically go yellow. When it goes yellow, not only do the lights turn yellow, but you'll also get those 5 buzzes to remind you that you only have 5 minutes. Now, before it goes red, when that 5 minutes runs out, the system is going to go red, it's going to go cold. And before that happens, you need to be off your gun. It needs to be chamber flagged, and you cannot be at a bench, and you cannot touch a firearm for any reason. We've got a shooter here we'll show you as an example. So Dennis is still at the bench, and it is yellow condition, and he's enjoying shooting, but he's watching that shot clock, and we're going to say that shot clock is down to about 20 or 30 seconds. And when it's down to 20 or 30 seconds, he's going to unload that, remove the magazine, put his chamber flag in. He's going to stand up. He's going to get away from his bench. No one feels comfortable going down range when you're sitting at a bench behind a rifle, whether it's loaded or not. It has to be unloaded, it has to be chamber flagged, and you have to be away from it, and there are no exceptions to that rule. When the range goes cold, you'll notice all the lights are in red condition. The shot clock will be at 0, and at that point, you will hear a very loud, long, continuous buzz to let you know that there's an audible that you should have already been off your gun. Again, and under no circumstances can you touch a firearm after the range is in cold or red condition or in stop condition. And you also are not allowed to have loaded carry guns on you at the range while you're shooting your rifles. Okay, if you're in the short range building, the targets that you can engage are first the 100-yard target, in which you'll see both paper targets and some steel. Now, the steel at the 100-yard line is not really steel that you should just sit there and shoot over and over, especially not rapid fire and mag dumps. You need to have a little etiquette. That steel's really for sight-in purposes. If you need to shoot on something that's larger than a 2-foot by 3-foot target stand to see where your bullet's going to help you adjust your scope, that's really what it's for. It's really, we see people come out with their AR-15s and they'll sit and do a 30-round mag dump on one of those pieces of steel. And I got to tell you, that's really irritating to the precision rifle shooters that are shooting next to you. That's not what they came here for. It's not what the range is about. Now, I do understand, that there are cases where if you're practicing some tactical applications with your AR, that you may do a double tap at 100 and move quickly to 200, double tap at 2, a double tap at 3, and then slow down and shoot your 5. And I understand that, and we do allow that. So I'm not saying you can't shoot your ARs at all. I'm just saying don't be that guy that's sitting there constantly dumping mag after mag onto a 4-foot square piece of steel at 100 yards, because you're not accomplishing anything and you're really just irritating all the other shooters. Now, if you'll move to the far right, you're going to notice that there's a 200-yard berm, and it's got some steel silhouettes added in there along with the sight-in plate, so you can see what's going on there, help you get your dope, and some paper target stands. Directly to the left of that, another 100 yards downrange, is the 300-yard berm. And you've got 2 sight end plates there, several silhouettes, some that are mounted low to the ground, some that are high, and you've got paper targets. Going out another 200 yards from there, you'll be looking at the 500-yard range, which has a know your limits target, which is very interesting, a lot of paper target stands, and also a sight end plate and some steel silhouettes. Okay, some additional things here at the short range. Be sure to pick up your brass. You know, if you come out and have a nice day, don't ruin somebody else's day by forcing them to pick up your brass. Be a responsible member. Take down your targets and dispose of them properly. Again, we've talked about how they'll, you know, they not only look unsightly and make the range look less professional, but we do a lot of work to keep this range clean and to have the nicest range we think in Tennessee. And we don't want it to look poor, but we also want these targets blowing off the property or across the road, which they easily do when the wind gets up. So, you know, proper range etiquette dictates that you'll pick up your brass and you'll take down your target. We've checked on the range safety system and told you how the golf cart works. And again, you cannot walk past 100 yards. You have to take that golf cart if you go past the 100-yard mark and you're going down range. You do have to check your bullets with a magnet, and you'll see there's a sign and there's actually a magnet mounted on a post, so you can make sure if a bullet contains steel, it'll stick to the magnet, and therefore it cannot be shot on any steel at any distance. And that's in your range rules, which I'm sure you have a copy of. No shooting the rimfire targets is a big one, so we're going to go down to the rimfire range. We do not allow centerfire shooters to shoot under 100 yards. If you're shooting a centerfire, you cannot shoot at those 25, 50, 75 yard or any of those really small steel targets are all rimfire and they're unarmored, and you will shoot holes in them. So if you're shooting a centerfire rifle on the rifle range, you cannot shoot under 100 yards. Back to the automatic range control system. It's a mechanical system, and we all know mechanical systems can fail. So it's really up to the shooter to make sure that there's no one visually downrange. They can't see anybody before they make the system hot. You need to communicate with the long range building because there's the same system is located there and they're tied together. And a lot of times people give each other a thumbs up saying they're ready to go hot before they do. So you'll learn to do those hand signals so that you're communicating with the people down the line. And also, you need to realize if something happens and you're sitting at your bench and you see something that happens, that it might be quicker. You may get up and be running toward this system so you can turn the key or hit the red button to turn it off. But you can yell ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. That is your ceasefire command on this range. And at most ranges in the country, if you yell ceasefire really loud 3 times, that should stop any gun range. That should shut it down right there. Everyone will hear you. They'll stop shooting. Yes, you go ahead and you kill the range automated system too. So the ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire command, in addition to you killing the range system, is a more efficient system, and the responsibility ultimately is on the shooters to be safe and to follow the range safety rules. So don't rely too heavily on an automated system. Remember that at the end of the day, each shooter, each member is a safety officer for this range, and he's responsible for following those rules. So now we're at the opposite end of the short range building, which is the rimfire area. The first 6 benches on this end of the building are designated for rimfire shooting. That's 22 long rifle only, not 22 Magnum, not 17 HMR or the Mach 2 17 cartridge, just 22 long rifle only. The distances at the rimfire range are 25, 50, 75, 100, 200, and 300 yards. Now, a centerfire rifle, if we are crowded, can shoot from these positions, but what he can't do is shoot at any of those targets, those rimfire targets, or any of those distances under 100 yards. That's a big no-no. If you shoot your centerfire rifle onto the rimfire range, then you're going to shoot through the berm, A, and B, you're going to shoot through the steel because those targets are not armored. They're just for the 22 long rifle only. A couple other things at the rimfire range: pick up your brass, take down your targets, clean up after yourself, have fun, be nice to your neighbor. So we're at the long range building now, and some of this stuff that you've already seen at the short range, but we're going to point it out again for you. There's the automated range control system with the green and yellow and red buttons. We've already shown you how that worked down at the short range. These two systems are tied together, so again, both keys, both golf carts have to be back. Both keys have to be inserted and turned to the right before either one of them will make the range go hot. Also, we mentioned in the clubhouse that there were medical stations and fire extinguishers at each shooting location, and you'll see this is typical of what you'll find in the short range building and in the Pistol Bay area, and also up here at the long range building. You've got a gunshot blowout kit, you've got a general first aid kit, and you have a fire extinguisher if you need it. You'll learn a lot about the long range facility when you take the long range qualifier, which is required before you can shoot at this building. You have to have that red LR sticker on your membership ID card. And again, that's a separate course from your safety orientation when you join that you'll go through. You can request that by email. We'll send you a link. It's an online course, and you'll learn most of this on there, but I'm going to point out a few things. One is the distance of the targets. We have a 100-yard berm for sight in. Of course, you'll see one sight in plate of steel, and then the rest are paper targets. And then the only two berms that are shared by both sides, which means they're allowed to be shot at from both buildings, are in the center field. You'll see a 200 and 300. And those can be shot at from the short range, from the rimfire, and from the long range. But they cannot have a steel target at them. They are paper target only. There's no steel there since we're shooting at them at a bit of an angle. We don't want any ricochets, so steel is not allowed those two distances. Then when you go on out, you'll notice that in the tree line on the far right, you are at the 600-yard berm, and you'll see a lot of the paper target backers get larger when they get there. They're 4 foot by 4 foot, and you've also got some 4 foot by 4 foot steel squares and two know your limit racks at that distance. If you look just a little bit to the left of that, you'll see the 750 berm. It sits kind of nice. It's kind of nestled in between the 600 and the 1,000-yard. And the 750 berm has just a couple of paper target stands and then a couple of little steel targets. A little bit to the left of there is the 1,000-yard berm. It's the big one you see downrange, kind of in the center of the long-range facility. And there's several big targets. The steel becomes 6 foot by 6 foot instead of 4 foot by 4 foot there for your sight-in steel. And you also have some plates that are scaled to size per distance at that range, and some silhouettes and a lot of paper target stands. To the left of there is our final berm, which is 1,250 yards. It also has a 6 by 6 steel target, sight-in target, and then it has some big 4 foot by 4 foot paper target stands. Another big don't at Strategic Edge is no matter whether you're in the Pistol Bay, the short range, the rimfire, or the long range, do not try to intentionally destroy the steel targets. You cannot aim for and continually be shooting the bolt heads or any of the stands or brackets. That's just willful destruction, and it will result in you losing your membership. Now we're at the trap range at Strategic Edge. We have 2 trap throwers, and it's a 5-stand system called 5-stand wobble trap. And these are true wobbles in that you will constantly change their vertical, horizontal, and left and right positions, and you won't know where they'll release the trap at. To use this facility, you're going to still operate under rifle range rules. So when this goes hot is when that system goes hot. When you go cold, you have to have your shotgun in the rack. It has to be unloaded. It has to be chamber flagged, just like those rifles do over there. You cannot be touching a firearm when the rifle range is cold on the shotgun range. So it operates under the same rules. If you're going to use this, you'd come up and you would basically make sure the power switch on the stand is turned off. You would open the buildings from the rear. That's important. Don't ever walk in front of these machines. You would load the machines, let down the rear of the buildings for both stations. You'd turn the power back on, and you'd come up here and find this orange box with the remote control. And the remote control does have a voice actuation system, which you can read some instructions in there and learn to use. But basically, it's got the left building and the right building. It's the A and the B. The C is going to be a double with no delay, and the D is going to be a double with a 1 second delay. While we've covered a lot of do's and don'ts at Strategic Edge Gun Range, one thing in particular I want to point out is being nice to the people you're shooting with. We absolutely will not tolerate any aggressive behavior toward another shooter. If you come out here, this is a family range. There's a lot of professionals that shoot out here. These people are nice, but so if we get somebody that's, if you're upset one day, you're angry, or you think you're going to shout at somebody, that's not going to go over well for you. You're going to lose your membership. And if somebody comes up to you and corrects you because you're breaking a rule, say thank you and fix it. And the same thing goes if you correct someone else, then be nice about it and tell them like they're somebody you care about, rather than treating them like they're an enemy, because they're not. And again, we will not tolerate that kind of behavior at the range. So in conclusion, we'd like to thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it'll help new members, but not just new members. Hopefully it'll help the existing members as some of the reminder of some of the things that they may or may not be doing correctly. We know it's going to help you new members. You can watch it over and over again. If you've got questions, you can contact us. Now, this video is not meant to replace any of the safety rules or the fact that you're supposed to learn all the safety rules. So I want to encourage you to download those, print them out, make sure you know those rules backwards and forwards so that you can stay in good standing with the range. This video will help you with some of the more common issues that we have, and it does give you an introduction to the range. So we wish you good luck and happy shooting.